Mr. Speaker. This should be an easy vote. This is about justice for the victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. This is about every victim of trafficking and sexual abuse, monstrous crimes that thrive in secrecy and fear. Yet instead of shining a light on that darkness, just moments ago, Donald Trump defended the continued obstruction of releasing these files. Even as House Republicans prepare to vote yes today, Speaker Johnson is calling this a show vote. He's calling it dangerous. He is signaling the U.S. Senate to block it. Republicans continue to use their power to shield rich pedophiles from justice. If you can't stand up for these survivors, how can anyone trust you to stand up for them? I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back.
We yield.
The gentleman reserves. Does the gentleman reserve?
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yes, just very quickly, what happened under the Biden administration? Well, under the Biden administration, Ghislaine Maxwell was prosecuted for conspiring to sexually abuse and traffic girls in 2020. Right when it's in 2021, she was convicted. In December of 2021, after a month-long trial in Judge Nathan's courtroom, in 2022, Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison under the Biden administration for sex trafficking and sexual abuse of minors. But when President Trump took office in January of 2025, they killed the investigation. They assembled all the materials, they got all the prosecutors together, and they terminated the investigation. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Raja Krishnamurthy.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support to release the Epstein files. First, this issue is beyond party. It's a question of justice. Survivors have waited too long. Stop the delay. This is not a hoax. Release the files. Second, we must face a hard truth. Silence that shields the powerful is a betrayal of those they hurt. Congress must reject any attempt, including a presidential pardon or any form of clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell. This cannot be done. This would be a cover-up. We cannot allow clemency of any kind for Maxwell, not now, not ever. Survivors deserve justice. I urge a strong yes vote. Thank you.
Yields back.
I want to thank the gentleman for his eloquent remarks. Pardons are for people who are contrite. Pardons are for people who are repentant. Pardons are not for people who lie. Every member of this body should immediately, verbally, vocally denounce the idea of clemency, commutation, or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, and we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Yeah, we reserve, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman reserves.
I yield 30 seconds to Ms. Leisure Fernandez.
The gentlelady is recognized.
There were thousands of girls and young women abused, trafficked, and used by Epstein, the elite and the powerful who believed they could get away with it. Epstein told the young victims that he controlled the banks and the government. Those women refused to be silenced, and today they have pierced the dark with their light. Anytime any girl is trafficked, molested, or abused, the world must stand up. Today, the House proves Jeffrey Epstein wrong. The Senate must do the same tomorrow.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from California. 1.5 minutes to the gentleman from California.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I thank you, Chairman. Mr. Speaker, a minute and a half or an hour, the words would still have to be the same. We've all said that this will pass the House, perhaps unanimously today. I think all of us who have looked at the details of this particular bill know that it is flawed, and that before it goes to the president's desk, it has to be amended as it can be amended in the Senate. And we call on the Senate to amend it so that we protect the innocent, so that we have the provisions that were intended perhaps to be in this bill but are not properly written. With that, President Trump has said, get it to his desk, he will sign it. President Trump has said he will do it. But I'm going to say to all of us, it is also important that we remember that Epstein is dead, but people live on, people who were innocent, people who in fact should not be named. We're not talking about the rich and the powerful, we're talking about the very victims. That is what we need to make sure is amended before it goes to the president's desk. And with that, I thank the chairman for his time. I think no more needs be said that this body will vote for it all, but let's not kid ourselves. It has to be changed so that it properly protects both the tradition of the grand jury and clearly those innocent people that would otherwise be swept up. And I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman yields back.
Reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
This whole bill is about protecting the innocent. Mr. Speaker, the Senate must pass the bill as we are passing it today and as the president has said he would sign it after changing his position on the bill over the weekend when he could see the tidal wave of public opinion moving against him. Let's pass this bill, pass it in the Senate, sign the bill, and let us go ahead and release the complete file. I yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Arizona, Representative Ansari.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the walls are closing in on Donald Trump and his rich and powerful friends who either abused or raped children or were enabling and complicit in these heinous crimes for decades. This vote today matters, but here is the truth. Donald Trump could direct the Department of Justice to release the files today. He is choosing not to. They are already under subpoena, led by oversight Democrats, and have refused. This is an ongoing cover-up by the Trump White House, and Mike Johnson and the House has been complicit. What is Trump hiding? Why not release the files today? This is a
Time has expired.
Release the files today. Thank you.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Van Drew.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Today I want to talk about hypocrisy. Let me be clear. I was from Jumpstart, a co-sponsor of this very bill. From the beginning, we should never protect pedophiles. But for months, my Democratic colleagues have done what they think is politically convenient through all the yelling, through all the tears, through all the sadness. They say releasing the Epstein list is of grave concern to them. If that was true, where were they during the 4 years of the Biden presidency? Why didn't they demand the release of these files from Jumpstart in year 1? Mr. Speaker, why didn't they ask for them in year 2? Or if that wasn't good enough, maybe in year 3, they had control. Or not even in his final year of office. Other than a single letter the ranking member wrote in 2019, a single letter, not one Democrat on the committee spoke out about Epstein or his victims of this very terrible tragedy, other than to say that he didn't like the plea deal. Let me say this. When they stand here today insisting how badly they want these files released, why didn't they do it? Yet they stayed silent for year after year after year after year under Joe Biden. It's impossible. Mr. Speaker, it is impossible to see that as genuine. What I see is a group more focused on scoring political points and drama than on protecting abused children. The record is clear. Under Republicans, far more information has been released in the last 6 months than was done during all 4 years of the previous presidency under Joe Biden. We've actually been the party of transparency. We've released the information. We've told the truth. Unfortunately, and I'm sad to say it, they have been the party of hypocrisy. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
You know, I've never heard a more defensive presentation in my life than what we're hearing from over there. The gentleman should spend a little less time pointing out hypocrisy and a little more time trying to ferret out cruelty, humiliation, and rape. And that's what we're working on. I yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from California, Mr. Mint.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I want to remind you that we are all here voting on this bill because President Trump, who has the power to release the Epstein files at any time, has refused to do so, calling this a hoax. We're here because Speaker Mike Johnson and President Trump have gone to extraordinary lengths to try to kill and delay the discharge petition, including refusing to seat Adelita Grijalva for over 40 days and threatening House Republicans who signed on. Now, several of my Republican colleagues have accused those of us House Democrats who support justice here of having Trump derangement syndrome. You all suffer from something much worse, which is pedophile protection syndrome. Stop protecting pedophiles, release the Epstein files. The victims deserve justice. I yield back.
We reserve.
Shout out Mike from
Members are reminded to direct their comments to the chair.
No kidding.
The
No.
gentleman from Maryland reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from Maryland.
I'm yielding 30 seconds to my friend Representative Walkinshaw from Virginia.
The gentleman is recognized.
For years, Mr. Speaker, we have watched dangerous conspiracies like Pizzagate and QAnon shape our political landscape. They help fuel the rise of President Trump and were built on baseless claims about secret pedophile rings, while the real documented case of child sex trafficking involving Jeffrey Epstein remains shrouded in secrecy because President Trump refuses to release the files. What is President Trump hiding? Why won't he release the files? The House finally has the opportunity to act, release the files, and let the American people see the truth. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Granting 30 seconds to the very distinguished gentlelady who is finally with us, Representative Adelita Grijalva from Arizona 7th.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to acknowledge the survivors, family members, and advocates who are here today and have never given up. The legislation in front of us, at its core, is about something very simple. The survivors deserve justice. The American people deserve the truth. To every survivor watching, your courage is inspiring. You are the reason why this vote is happening today. Protecting women and children from pedophiles should not be a Democratic issue, should not be a Republican issue. It should be a human rights issue and a matter of justice. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, and we reserve.
The chair will remind all persons in the gallery that they are here as guests of the House and that any manifestation of approval or disapproval of proceedings is in violation of the rules of the House. The gentleman from Maryland.
Yeah, but I'll just add, they're here as honored guests of the House, and we're delighted they're here, and with that, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland.
I'm granting 30 seconds to Representative Lois Franco from Florida.
The gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, for far too long, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse were failed by a justice system that minimized their suffering and prosecutors who treated young girls as if they were criminals. That was wrong, and I am here with my colleagues to promise this. We will get to the bottom of why the Epstein survivors were treated so badly, who made those decisions, and who were they protecting. No more secrecy, no more excuses. We all deserve the truth, and I thank the survivors for their courage and perseverance. Your voices are being heard.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from the great state of Louisiana, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Mr.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chairman Jordan, for doing such an extraordinary job on all of this. For 43 long days, the Democrats held this House and the entire country hostage. Finally, with the lights back on, this body's returning to our regular legislative session. We have a lot of work to do. My colleagues on this side of the chamber are ready and eager to get back to our urgent legislative work that we promised the American people we would do. We've got to continue lowering the cost of health care. We've got to bring down prices for American families, and we've got to finish the regular appropriations process, just to name a few of those priorities. And I wish I could say that our first order of business would be to get to those urgent priorities, but of course we're here spending time on the floor about something else. This is something we could have resolved last week when we brought a unanimous consent to pass this discharge with the full support of the body. But our friends over here who are arguing today stalled that. They objected to it, and they wanted to have this exercise instead. And that's why we say that this is a show vote. That's what this is. They're making a show of it. And it really is a shame. We have some heroic women in the chamber today. I met with many of them a while back. They're in the gallery here. They have come forward. They have shown their faces. They've used their names to share the unspeakable tragedies that many of them were subjected to, some of them when they were very young. And it is a heroic service to the country. They are seeking justice, and the justice has been delayed for too long. The Department of Justice, many years ago, should have brought these charges. It took too long to do it. And now we're in this process of making sure all the American people get the information, but we have to do it in the right way. After 4 years of Democrat control under President Biden, they were not truthful with us about a lot of things. The Democrats insisted the border was secure. We knew it wasn't. They insisted that inflation was transitory. We knew it wouldn't be. They misled the American people about the obvious mental and physical decline of the previous commander-in-chief. And now those same Democrats are demanding transparency. Suddenly, transparency is their new word. Out of nowhere, they've taken a curious concern in the Epstein investigation, all in the name of that, in the name of transparency. But the question has been asked here many times during the debate on the floor, and everybody questioning why it is the Democrats have done this right now have to look at the obvious facts. The Democrats had all the Epstein files in their possession for 4 long years under the Biden presidency. The Biden Department of Justice had these files, and no one on this side who is breathless today about the urgency of this release ever said a word about it. And it was the Democrats who could have urged President Biden's Department of Justice to go beyond prosecuting just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but they didn't do it. And so it's a fair question to ask today, why now? Why the sudden urgent interest in Jeffrey Epstein? Look, we know why. It's because the Democrats were never interested in transparency or executing justice or protecting the victims of this unspeakable tragedy before. The simple truth is obvious for everybody to see. This is a political exercise for Democrats, and it pains me to say it. I wish that was not the truth, but it is, and it's undeniable. This is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt was to shut the government down. Democrats are using the Epstein tragedy, the unspeakable evils that this guy committed with his trafficking ring and all of the abuses that they made these young women go through. They're using that as a political weapon to try to distract from their failures as a party and to try their best to try to tie President Trump somehow into this wretched scandal. The president had nothing to do with it. He's been very clear, and he has nothing to hide, and that's why he's endorsed the vote today. I suspect this vote will be probably unanimous. But here's the important point that everybody needs to understand. We have been advocates of maximum transparency, but we have also insisted that the victims be carefully protected. The Oversight Committee has been doing extraordinary work, and we've got some of the most vigorous advocates on the Republican and Democrat side on the Oversight Committee. They've been working in earnest to deliver transparency for the American people and to do it in a responsible manner. What do we mean by that? The bipartisan effort over there is already producing all the results that the discharge petition.
I thought he had 2 minutes. Ain't his time up?
Chairman Comer and all of these advocates over there have been releasing thousands of documents, for example, from the Epstein estate. And by the way, in my view, that's been the greatest treasure trove of information because it's yielded for us Epstein's own personal flight logs, his financial records, his daily calendars, and so much more. But importantly, none of that was addressed or is addressed in the legislation that's being voted on today. The estate files wouldn't even have been encompassed in that. And so it goes to show that the Oversight Committee is doing it from the right way. From the very beginning, we've been insistent that this matter be handled carefully and with the utmost caution and care for the people who have been harmed. They should not be made to suffer any longer. We're talking about real people's lives at stake here, and young victims who don't want to be dragged into this political game that could get hurt further. But the Democrats are rushing the release of thousands of unsubstantiated documents that may be included in this, that are going to be in the public domain with the passage of this bill. And there are serious deficiencies in the legislation that I have noted at length, and Republicans have to work to address those deficiencies in the Senate if and when this legislation is advanced. I stood before the American public today at our press conference, and I explained in detail the dangers of the discharge petition. We have posted at my website, speaker.gov, a summary. The legal counsel, a small army of lawyers, put this together. I used to be a federal court litigator. Many of my colleagues who have spoken today were. We understand the dangers of how this was haphazardly drawn up. And among them, by the way, Mr. Speaker, before I forget, I seek unanimous consent to enter into this document into the record. It's on the website. It's entitled, How the Flaws of H.R. 4405 Could Re-Victimize Epstein's Victims, Create New Victims, and Damage the Judicial System. It is dated today. Thank you. And it summarizes just 5 or 6 of the major concerns. Among them, it fails to fully protect victim privacy. It could create new categories of victims. It potentially jeopardizes grand jury secrecy. It fails to prohibit release of child sexual abuse materials that are not appropriately defined in the legislation. It jeopardizes future federal investigations, and we have national security concerns regarding classified information. We'll put this in the record because we need the legislative record to reflect what is the legislative intent behind this vote. I used to litigate cases. We would litigate federal statutes and whether or not they could survive, and legislative intent is important. And we need to say clearly for the record, as a Speaker of the House, I'm saying to you, this legislation that will pass today is flawed and it must be amended. The question is, why didn't we amend it here before we passed it? Because the authors won't allow it. Because under the rules of the House, under a discharge petition, they have to agree to consent for the legislation to be amended, and they're not doing that. So now we rely upon our partners in the other chamber to get that done, and they need to do that. The victims deserve our utmost respect. In fact, they should be saluted for their courage. And the young women who have not come forward, who are now, some of them are middle-aged women who have not come forward, also deserve our respect, and they deserve to be protected. Republicans support transparency. We want maximum transparency, especially when it comes to disclosing the names of anybody who had anything to do with these evils, anybody who conspired with or aided in any way Jeffrey Epstein. They must be brought to justice. We want the bill to be amended so it doesn't, at the same time, violate victim privacy, create new victims, disclose the names of any whistleblower or informant, cause the release of grand jury materials or child sexual abuse materials, or undermine our national security. And if and when the Senate takes this up, we will work with our colleagues over there to make sure that these things are corrected. I'll just close with this simple thought. We've been at this a while. It's drug on for a while, but it's time for this to come to light. I expect that this will be a unanimous vote, and it will reflect what I think every member in this chamber, and I'll say this now, at least in recent days, every member of the chamber on the Democrat side, they didn't say anything for 4 years, but they're for maximum transparency now, and so is this side. But we want to do it in a respectful and careful manner so that we don't subject innocent people to further harm. And that has been the whole thing. I told all my members today I'll be voting yes on this, and I suspect almost everyone will. We'll send it to the Senate, and we hope it's corrected. Thank you for the time, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I'm yielding to Mr. Gomez for the sole purpose of making a parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Gomez is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask a point of parliamentary inquiry. Is this an appropriate time to point out that the Republicans named children's savings account in their so-called one big beautiful bill after Donald Trump, someone connected to one of the most notorious pedophiles in this country, or that the Speaker of the House just lied on the floor by stating that there was protection, there isn't protections for the victims in the Epstein bill.
The gentleman is no longer recognized. Gentleman from Maryland, you are recognized.
This shit heated.
I am prepared to close. I've got no more speakers on my side.
The gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No.
Gentleman from Ohio has 30 seconds.
Can I inquire how much time is remaining?
30 seconds. Six minutes, 15 seconds.
Take 30 his.
We reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I'll take the opportunity of the Speaker's presence to respond to some of the things that he said. In the very presence of the victims and the survivors who come to join us today, the Speaker said that now would be a time we should be working on urgent legislative work. Mr. Speaker, justice is urgent legislative work. The truth is urgent legislative work. The Speaker says, why now? Why now? Well, Mr. Speaker, you were the one who refused to swear in Adelita Grajova for 50 days. We would have done it 50 days ago, but she provided the 218th signature on the discharge petition. So why now? It was because of your dilatory tactics, your delay, your postponement of it. Now, the gentleman says that there are not sufficient protections. There are protections in the bill for the victims to make sure that their names will be redacted. And yet we hear even the Speaker of the House of Representatives openly inviting the U.S. Senate to start finger painting on this bill, which we have waited more than 5 months to bring to the floor. The Senate should pass the bill exactly as it's written. The president should sign it exactly as he said he would when he finally changed his mind. And the Epstein file must be released. Moreover, if the president is serious about what he's saying, he's got the power to release the Epstein file right now. Nobody's stopping him. It's within his possession. It's within his control. He can release the whole thing, and he can redact the names of the victims and others who are innocent in this process. Mr. Speaker, Speaker Johnson said that these are unspeakable evils. Well, because of the bravery and the invincible courage of the women who've joined us today, they're no longer unspeakable. They're spoken. They're articulated. The cat is out of the bag, and we know what's been going on for decades. It's been a double standard of justice, going all the way back to Alex Acosta, who later got rewarded with a cabinet appointment in the Trump administration. Alex Acosta had a 60-count federal indictment ready to go against all kinds of people for an interstate sex trafficking conspiracy with solicitation, with child sex abuse, all of it. And he traded that 60-count federal indictment for 1 count in state court. And Jeffrey Epstein ended up getting the sweetest of sweetheart deals ever on the plea bargain front. He was free from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to do whatever he wanted and continuing to perpetrate his crimes and run his conspiracy. And then he would come and he would watch TV and spend the night in jail. And it was over in about a year after the rape and sexual abuse of hundreds and hundreds of girls. And he kept going and he kept at it. We want the whole truth to come out. This is the United States of America. Even the British monarchy wouldn't put up with this. How about the American democracy? How about we say, no way, we're not going to allow this cover-up to go on for 1 day more. And I'm glad the president changed his mind after pulling out all the stops to try to get one of our Republican colleagues to change their mind, to remove their name from the discharge petition. He gave up. And I want to salute the gentlelady from Colorado from having the courage to stand her ground in the Situation Room in the White House and say, no, she wasn't going to be bullied. No. So I'm glad the president changed his mind, but let's be clear, Mr. President, you've got the power today to release the entire file. That's what you called for. That's what Pam Bondi called for. That's what Kash Patel called for. So we don't need anybody calling for the Senate to slow things down for more weeks and more months. The American people have had it. We'll reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman is reminded to direct your comments to the chair and not your colleagues. Gentleman from Ohio is recognized, and you do have 90 seconds remaining. Correction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Texas.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
The Democrat Party, with help from the dishonest media, used the Epstein files not to seek justice from the victims, but to smear President Trump. And it's sickening, quite sickening. The Democrats have used the Epstein files to distract the American people from the wins President Trump and his administration have delivered for the American people for the last 11 months. I'm proud to work with my Republican colleagues on the House Oversight Committee in coordination with the Justice Department. 65,000 pages of documents are related from Epstein released. What have my Democrat colleagues done? They selectively leaked and altered documents to mislead the American people. As President Trump has stated, we have nothing to hide here. I'm voting to release the files so that we can move on from this smear campaign the Democrats have manufactured. God bless
Gentleman's
Donald J.
time has
Trump.
expired. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Ohio reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
All right. How much time do I have to close?
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank all of America for tuning in to this. I want to thank Representatives Massey and Khanna, Representative Green, all of those who have insisted upon bringing the truth forward and a reckoning with the reality of one of the worst international child sex trafficking rings ever to exist in the United States and the cover-up attendant to it. We've got the opportunity today to do justice for the victims, for the survivors who have come forward to say that the voice of the victims and the survivors must be put at the very center of our deliberations, not shunted off to the side, not submerged, not subordinated, but put at the very center. We must hear from the people who themselves were victimized by this nightmare. Now, our colleagues across the aisle seem to want to make this into some sort of partisan contest. I haven't heard so much talk about the Democrats since the Democratic National Convention. And all that we've done here is to say we want to bring the truth forward, along with a bipartisan group. We don't want the Senate monkeying around with this in order to slow things down. We want it passed in the Senate. We want it signed. And before that, if the president is true to his word and he wants to see all of this come to light, he can release it now instead of fighting, kicking, and screaming every step along the way. But I'm glad he's changed his mind, and I hope he maintains the momentum he's got to stick with the vast majority of the American people who want to see that the truth is done here. And while he's at it, the administration could reconsider their terrible policies gutting federal offices and programs designed to combat violence against women. The DOJ terminated hundreds of grants to police departments, defunding the police when it comes to investigating violent sex crimes and to support victims. His DOJ destroyed programs to combat international human trafficking rings. Let's get back on the side of the women. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Speaker Johnson said it right. Why now after 4 years of doing nothing? Because going after President Trump is an obsession with these guys. Best example is John Brennan testified in front of our committee under oath, said he was not involved with the dossier. Only problem is Tulsi Gabbard declassified a report, released that report, and it said exactly the opposite. And she related a story in there where a CIA official went up to Mr. Brennan and said, we shouldn't include this in the report. And John Brennan's response was, yeah, but doesn't it ring true? Forget the facts, forget the truth, go after Trump, put it in. Same dynamic at work here. We're all for protecting innocent victims. We're all for exposing the bad guys who did bad things. But this is an obsession with the left. For 10 years, it's going after President Trump. So vote yes. Make sure the bad guys are held accountable. We all want to do that. Speaker Johnson's right. I think it's going to be unanimous. But understand what they're doing, because they had 4 years and didn't do a darn thing. With that, I yield back.
He lost.
Gentleman yields back. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 4405? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed. And without
Can I request a recorded vote, Mr. Speaker?
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yeah, I'm requesting a recorded vote.
The gentleman from Maryland has requested a recorded vote. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on the motion to suspend the rules will be followed by 5-minute votes on ordering the previous question on House Resolution 879, adoption of House Resolution 879 if ordered, and adoption of House Resolution 878. This is a 15-minute vote.
Okay, so it's 17 minutes into the hour. Look like everybody voting yes. Everybody voting yes. It ain't one nay, all yay. Everlasting yay. But it's still 191 Republicans that have not voted. 175 Democrats that have not voted. But everybody's voting yes. So far. You think it's gonna take 15 minutes? Facts. Phoenix 44 say with that vote being recorded, they can't hide. That's a fact. Larry Law say 15-minute vote. Phoenix says that email was fake. The lady whose name was redacted said Trump had nothing to do with her being abused before she took her own life. Larry Law says he want to be wrote down in history, and Republicans look like they finna win. Larry Law also says, black people, let me get your grit money for 1 year, $20 million. Help a brother out, 1 million. Black donates $1. Help a brother become a millionaire. I love y'all. Mike from the Ville said maybe it's more evidence. Where did the emails come from and how did they get released? Larry says, God bless America, make your own lives great, then go help your fellow brother. Amen. We're not gonna take it. Phoenix 44 say Democrats got some explaining to do. Wow. 50 pages have already been released. How much more do they need, he says. And Mike from the Ville says, like, share, and sub. Larry Law says the Clinton facilities are all family members. Yeah, please like, share, and sub. You know, I'm talking about, Larry Law says just too far along. I'm not gonna take it, okay, for sure. They're about to drop these Epstein files, Trump crashing out. Mike from the Ville says, oh, man. Yes, sir. Quick money. Here we go. I wonder if everybody votes, do they give them still the full 15 minutes, or do they go? Because, bro, there's some shit. Hold on. Let me go back just a little bit. Real quick. Boy, that was going crazy.
This legislation would have been passed last week.
A multi-billion-dollar
Democrats did last week. The Democrats released an email that the Oversight Committee had obtained from the estate, an email from Mr. Epstein to Ms. Maxwell. When the Democrats released it, they redacted the victim's name, something we all support, something everyone supports, except in this case, no court had ordered that name redacted, no agency had redacted it, and the estate didn't redact it. And the victim had already went public. So why black out her name? Why black out her name?
Imagine that the chairman of the Oversight Committee will follow up his spectacular failure in trying to impeach President Biden with his spectacular failure in trying to block the resolution we brought to the floor today. I'm happy to yield 1 minute. Excuse me, you're not recognized, whoever's speaking. And I'd like to yield 1 minute to the very distinguished minority leader in the House Oversight Committee.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. And Mr. Speaker, it's wonderful to hear Republicans and certainly the chairman of our committee finally wanting transparency on this issue. It is time to end this White House cover-up now. Now, we know that Donald Trump has tried everything to kill our Jeffrey Epstein investigation, and he's failed. And now he's panicking. He's about to lose his Epstein vote to force the Department of Justice to release the files. And let's be crystal clear. Trump has the power to release the files today. He does not even need a vote. And he continues to defy the subpoena of the Oversight Committee to release all the files. What is Donald Trump hiding? What is Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, hiding? Why won't they release the Epstein files right now? And he must explain to the public why he moved sex trafficker and monster Ghislaine Maxwell to a cushy, low-security prison after her interview with Trump's personal lawyer. He should declare, and every Republican should say, that she does not deserve a pardon or commutation.
The gentleman's time has expired.
30 more seconds. I grant him 20 more seconds. We
Gentleman's
don't care how
recognized.
much money you have, what party you're in, how powerful you are. We should get justice for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. And our work on the committee is not over. Next up are the bank and financial records to follow and expose Epstein's network. Today, there should be a unanimous vote on releasing the files, and we will get justice. And with that, I yield back. And we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield a minute and a half to the distinguished gentleman from California and member of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Chime.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I have consistently called for the maximum possible level of transparency when it comes to the heinous crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. That's why I've consistently said I am inclined to vote for this bill, and it's why I will be doing so today. The victims deserve the truth. They deserve justice, and they deserve closure. For months, they've had to wake up every day and see the name of their tormentor on the front page of every newspaper, on every TV channel, as has the broader American public. This issue has been so politicized by so many people in so many ways, which is deeply unfortunate when we're talking about matters of the highest sensitivity and untold suffering. It is my hope that the passage of this resolution today, together with the work of the Oversight Committee, will lead to the expeditious release of all pertinent material so that we can move on. Let's get accountability, let's get answers, and let's get this over with. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman reserves.
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I yield 1 minute to the very distinguished gentlelady from Washington, a member of the Judiciary Committee.
The gentlelady from Washington is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thousands of girls, children, were abused by Jeffrey Epstein and his massive and powerful ring of pedophiles and protectors of pedophiles. We can't say all their names here, we don't have time, but let's at least bring a few of the courageous survivors and their names onto the House floor right here as we debate this. Haley Robson, Jenna Lisa Jones, Michelle Licata, Ashley Rubright, Annie Farmer, Marina Lacerda, Rachel Benavides. These women have carried a burden that they never should have had to bear. And today they demand, we demand, the American people demand that we answer their clarion call to justice. Today, despite all the giant cover-up attempts by this administration and this Speaker of the House, we will vote to release all the Epstein files. To be clear, there is no protection for pedophiles, no protection for the rich and powerful men of either party who participated, who turned a blind eye, who winked and grinned while witnessing the horrific abuses of young children. Release all the damn files now.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield a minute and a half to the distinguished gentleman from North Carolina and member of our committee.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That means 51 women. It includes your
social attendee who had no impact whatsoever on the criminal activities of Jeffrey Epstein, no participation. Their lives are forever ruined. And I'm reading specifically from the petition's language that prohibited grounds for withholding information in this file are embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. And I would just submit, if you were going to be embarrassed, if you were going to suffer social harm, and that is all of the encompassed activity that you were a part of, you will be named in this petition. And I resent that. Innocent people should not be harmed when we are pursuing justice. I understand the political nature of this petition. I resent the fact that there was not room for good faith amendments. And I urge the Senate to protect innocent people. I yield back.
Yields back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you. I'm yielding 1 minute to the distinguished gentlelady from California, Representative Kamlager Dove.
The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, 1 in 3 women and girls around the world are physically and sexually assaulted each year. Of the 152 women in this body, that means 51 women. It includes your daughters, your sisters, your nieces, your mothers. And with the Epstein files, we have a chance to change that. But real talk, the administration doesn't need a discharge petition. It has not complied with the subpoena, and it has the power to release the files today. Instead, the man in the most powerful position in the world has used the full weight of the government to block and obfuscate and deflect the full release of the files. It is the same person who intimidated female members of Congress to withdraw names from the petition, who responded quiet piggy to a female reporter who asked about the files, and who nominated an alleged sexual predator to be our AG. It is the same person whose name appears more than any other in the Epstein emails. And in the pantheon of violence, a sexual predator is the worst of the worst. So why protect him? It's also curious that the judiciary is managing this debate and has not even had this come before the committee. I wonder why. Release the files now.
We reserve. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from...
We got 1 no. Hold on. It's 2 minutes left. We're going to go to it. Forget it. We're going to it live. It's 1 no. We're just going to stay right here now. Told you, boy, they heated, bro. Big homie Slim, yo, what up, Rumor fam, Rumor, what up, yo. He said, oh, what up, Rumonati fam, Rumor, what up, yo, what up with it? Mike from the field said, what up, big homie? And he said, this lady snap. Larry Law said, they just act like they care. If they really care, Donald Trump would have never been president. Big homie says, they will never release those files. Too much people would be exposed. Mike from the field says, if I was innocent, I would have been giving these people what they want and been done with it or exposed what they trying to do. Phoenix says, told y'all why they redacted her name. She already went public and she's not living. Mike says, if you're innocent, why fight against releasing anything? Facts. Oh, did the nigga take the no vote back? Oh, they say it looked bad against all the Republicans. Nigga took his vote back. Look at all the people that don't vote, that's the no. 50 seconds left. Look at all the no vote. Not voted. Like they said, not voted equals no in this case. Look at all them nasty bastards who named in the list, allegedly. Who names in them emails and files, look. Look at all them nasty bastards. 76. Go. There you go. 6 likes, let's go. Shout out to y'all, man. Let's go, let's go. They tried to make it even, 153, that wasn't it, man. got that one. Oh, they let a Democrat say no? The Republicans said no and he took it back. Now it's a Democratic no. The time remaining still is over. Man, look at it. Come on, bro. That's what I'm saying, bro. Vote still coming in after the buzzer. What type of shit? They done mess around and got the Democratic no. Now it's gone. They trying to make it. Now it's more Republicans with yeah than Democratic no. I think they do this every year. Y'all seen when they do this overseas and it be like the Asians or the Africans and they start fading and shit?
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 8, Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on ordering the previous question on House Resolution 879, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Calendar Number 47, House Resolution 879. Resolution providing for consideration of the joint resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 80, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska Integrated Activity Plan Record of Decision, providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 130, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Buffalo Field Office Record of Decision and approved Resource Management Plan Amendment, providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 131, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Coastal Plain Oil and Gas Leasing Program Record of Decision, providing for consideration of the concurrent resolution, House Concurrent Resolution 58, denouncing the horrors of socialism, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 1949, to repeal restrictions on the export of import of natural gas, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 3109, to require the Secretary of Energy to direct the National Petroleum Council to issue a report with respect to the petrochemical refineries in the United States and for other purposes, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 5107, to repeal the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022, enacted by the District of Columbia Council, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 5214, to require mandatory pretrial and post-conviction detention for crimes of violence and dangerous crimes and require mandatory cash bail for certain offenses that pose a threat to the public safety or order in the District of Columbia, and for other purposes and for other purposes.
The question is on ordering the previous question. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
So can Trump veto this bill? Oh, this shit is so. It's all a good show. Let's go. 2 minutes to vote. This is to require mandatory pretrial and post-conviction detention for crimes of violence and dangerous crimes, and require mandatory cash bail for certain offenses that pose a threat to public safety. Also, it says this is a vote to expand drilling, repeal police reforming, and cut taxes/funding for important projects. This vote is about socialism, Medicare, and Social Security. Watch reps vote to classify these as socialist programs that they don't have to support.
On this vote, the yeas are 217, the nays are 211. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts rise?
I ask for a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. The House will be in order. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. For what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
To speak out of order for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to recognize a man whose dedication, steadiness, and wisdom have shaped not only my work in this chamber, but the work of this institution itself. I'm talking about my Chief of Staff, Brett Horton. There are few people who know Capitol Hill more intimately than Brett. For 15 years...
Gentlemen will suspend. The House will be in order.
For 15 years, he's been by my side. He began as my counsel in 2010 and worked his way through some of the most demanding, consequential roles in the House. Policy Director at the Republican Study Committee, Floor Director in the Majority Whip's office, and for the last decade, my Chief of Staff in both the Whip's office and the Leader's office. To me and to countless members of Congress and staff, Brett Horton has been far more than a colleague. He's been a trusted advisor, steady in his approach, wise in his counsel, and deliberate in his words and actions. When the stakes were the highest, Brett's voice was the one you wanted in the room. His fingerprints are on every major Republican policy victory we've achieved in the past decade. But perhaps more importantly, he's been by my side through tough personal and professional challenges that extend far beyond legislating. In the aftermath of the congressional baseball shooting, an event that shook my family, my staff, and this entire conference in Congress, Brett's leadership and friendship were unwavering. He helped carry us through one of the most difficult and unprecedented challenges we ever faced. Mr. Speaker, public service at this level demands trust, character, and unwavering duty for the institution that is this United States Congress. Brett Horton embodies all of these qualities. I'm profoundly grateful for his years of service to me personally, to this House, and to our country. As Brett begins his next chapter, I have no doubt he'll continue to serve with the same excellence that has defined his entire career. The United States House of Representatives is the stronger institution because of Brett Horton's distinguished service here. I wish Brett all the best in his future endeavors, and I tell you, thank you, Brett, for your personal friendship and for your service to this great United States of America and this great Congress. Thank you, Brett Horton.
Little orphan Annie looking there.
Gentleman yields back. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on the adoption of House Resolution 879, on which a recorded vote is ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
Calendar number 47, House Resolution 879. Resolution providing for consideration of the joint resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 80, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska Integrated Activity Plan Record of Decision, providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 130, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Buffalo Field Office Record of Decision and approved Resource Management Plan Amendment. Providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 131, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Coastal Plain Oil and Gas Leasing Program Record of Decision, providing for consideration of the concurrent resolution, House Concurrent Resolution 58, denouncing the horrors of socialism, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 1949, to repeal restrictions on the export and import of natural gas, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 3109, to require the Secretary of Energy to direct the National Petroleum Council to issue a report with respect to the petrochemical refineries in the United States and for other purposes, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 5107, to repeal the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022, enacted by the District of Columbia Council, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 5214, to require mandatory pre-trial and post-conviction detention for crimes of violence and dangerous crimes, and require mandatory cash bail for certain offenses that pose a threat to the public safety or order in the District of Columbia, and for other purposes and for other purposes.
The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
Okay. All right, y'all with me? It says the U.S. House votes 427-1 to compel the Justice Department to release all of its Jeffrey Epstein files. The bipartisan bill will now have to pass a Senate vote before President Donald Trump signs it into law. It's halfway there. Republican votes no, says bill will hurt innocent people. We've just heard that Republican U.S. Representative Clay Higgins has voted no on the bipartisan bill. He says the bill reveals and injures thousands of innocent people, witnesses, people who provided alibis, family members, etc. Higgins continues by saying, if enacted in its current form, this type of broad reveal of criminal investigative files released to a rabid media will absolutely result in innocent people being hurt. Higgins adds that he will vote for the bill when it comes back to the House, but only if the Senate amends the bill to properly address privacy of victims and other Americans who are named but not criminally implicated. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. So they vote to release all the files, but when they go back and the vote that the one we can't see, only if everything that's contained within the files ain't released. Huh? Nigga, that ain't all the files. Am I missing something here? I don't claim to be the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm not. But am I missing something? Phoenix says they're going to get released. It's just going to F up the Clintons and Obama's reputation and legacy. Big Homie says they will never release those files. And what about Pizzagate? That just disappeared. And allegedly that involved politicians from both sides. Same as this Epstein situation. And then he also says a bunch of PDF files in one room. Whoop-dee-doo, Larry Law says. The House will come to order. Bro, he was not having it. Judge wasn't playing with nobody. The House will come to order. AKA y'all sit y'all ass down and shut up. Mel says all the stuff that she read out was the stuff that they're about to vote on now. Phoenix said, I feel them. Big Homie says, Rumor said it's time to diversify. Mel says, but all the stuff she read out was just, about natural gas, nothing about Epstein. Oh, Mels, you must have missed. Shout out to you, Mels. What's up, what's up, what's up? You might have missed the first one. Phoenix 44 said that boy got us watching Congress. The homie Slim said, what's the previous question? Okay, we caught up there. For sure.
On this vote, the yeas are 217 and the nays are 210. The resolution is adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Neil says I got that. He wanted the names of the victims to be redacted. The Big Homie says it's going to F up more than just them.
Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on adoption of House Resolution 878, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 878, resolution disapproving the behavior of Representative Jesus G. Chuy Garcia of Illinois.
The question is on adoption of the resolution. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
5 minutes to fly. I was with him until this last one. This last one I'm not clear on. Let me see if I can find something out here to tell me. What is this last one about? Is this even the last one? No, this ain't the vote for yeah, so with this vote, Trump could veto it, and the Senate will have to vote 2/3. I mean, 2/3 of the Senate will have to. So there's no guarantee that this, just because this vote went through, there's no guarantee that we get these Epstein files. So what are we voting on now? I'm trying to find out. Is this about the drilling in Alaska? Disapproving the behavior of Representative Jesus G. Chuy Garcia of Illinois. So it's about him or it's about Big Homie says we're talking about billionaires and politicians who run this country being exposed as a PDF, and even royal family members and possible other politicians from other countries is bigger than just trying to expose Trump. Mike from the Ville says facts. Mel said is that fake people talking or those old people chatting? Mike from the Ville says shit will never truly be exposed because the ones who have the power to actually fix the problems are the ones causing the problems. Big Homie says this is a revolving door that's going on and never got exposed, just covered up. Too much big money involved. Big Homie say if it was a bunch of rappers we was talking about, yeah, they would have been exposed. But we talking about the leaders of the country and billionaires, throwback money, businessmen and women. Mike from the Ville said, males, those are actual people talking. Yeah, it's hundreds of people in a chamber. They're in like they're in a courtroom, basically, a large courtroom. And sound is echoing. So the Epstein files, they voted, it can still be vetoed. So we only halfway there when it comes to these Epstein files. That's crazy. I think it's a shoe-in, right? Trump told a reporter, "You're a terrible person for asking him an Epstein question."
On this vote, the yeas are 236, the nays are 183, with 4 answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm lost on this one, y'all. I don't know what's going on.
The House will come to order. The House will come to order. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I rise to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privilege of the House.
The gentleman is recognized. Just a moment. Members of the House will come to order. Chair would ask members to please take conversations off the floor. The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, my House Resolution 888, censoring and condemning Delegate Stacey Plaskett and removing her from the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence for conduct that reflects the discredibility on the House of Representatives for colluding with convicted felon and offender Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing. Whereas Stacey Plaskett, the delegate representing the United States Virgin Islands in the House of Representatives, inappropriately coordinated in real time with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in a congressional hearing in February of 2019. Whereas Delegate Plaskett was actively coached by Epstein during the hearing, receiving instructions on specific lines of questioning, and was congratulated after the message by Mr. Epstein, "Good work." Whereas Jeffrey Epstein, the Speaker of the House is not in order.
The gentleman has the floor. The chair would again ask the body to please observe decorum and keep conversations to a minimum. The gentleman has the floor.
Whereas Jeffrey Epstein was a known convicted felony sex offender, having pled guilty and been convicted for procuring a child for prostitution and solicitation, a proselyte in a plea deal in 2008, and served a 13-month prison sentence. Whereas in the course of that investigation, the FBI compiled reports on dozens of confirmed minors who credibly alleged sexual abuse by Mr. Epstein. Whereas Epstein was under further federal investigation beginning in November of 2018, 2 months before Delegate Plaskett's recently revealed text exchange during a congressional hearing, following investigative reporting by the Miami Herald detailing Epstein's controversial 2008 plea deal and highlighting accounts of his victims. Whereas Epstein was arrested in July of 2019 and charged with 1 count of sex trafficking of minors and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors, he was later found dead in the New York Metropolitan Correctional Center. Whereas according to documents released from Epstein's estate during a House Committee on Oversight and Reform hearing featuring testimony from Michael Cohen, the disgraced former attorney for President Donald J. Trump, Delegate Plaskett coordinated her line of questioning with Jeffrey Epstein in real time over text messages while the hearing was underway. Whereas Delegate Plaskett, who previously served as an Assistant Attorney General in the United States Department of Justice Civil Division, is known to have had extensive political, personal, and professional connections with Epstein after his conviction as a sex offender up to the time of his arrest and then his death in 2019. Whereas Delegate Plaskett's relationship with Epstein stands in stark contrast to the public image that she has curated for herself as a defender of justice and accountability, and while secretly collaborating with an individual whose crimes against vulnerable women and children shocked the entire nation. Whereas Delegate Plaskett's willingness to receive instructions on official congressional proceedings from Epstein, a convicted felony sex offender with deep concerning international associations, is especially alarming and inappropriate given her own past service in the United States Department of Justice and her current role on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and raises serious questions about Delegate Plaskett's judgment, her integrity, and her fitness to serve. Whereas such associations erode public trust in Congress, particularly when they involve using input from a sex offender to advance partisan attacks during official proceedings. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Section 1, Censure of Delegate Stacey Plaskett. Resolved that the House of Representatives censors and condemns Delegate Stacey Plaskett for inappropriate coordination with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing which reflects discreditably on the House of Representatives, and directs the Committee on Ethics to conduct a full investigation into the extent of Plaskett's ties to Epstein and any further improprieties. Section 2, remove from House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The following named member be and is hereby removed from the following committee on the House of Representatives. Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Ms. Plaskett.
Chair will now recognize the gentleman from South Carolina to offer the resolution just noticed. Does the gentleman from South Carolina offer the resolution?
I do.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 888. Whereas Stacey Plaskett, the delegate representing the United States Virgin Islands in the House of Representatives, inappropriately coordinated with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in a congressional hearing in February 2019. Whereas Delegate Plaskett was actively coached by Epstein during the hearing, received instructions on specific lines of questioning, and was congratulated afterwards with the message, "Good work." Whereas Jeffrey Epstein was a known convicted felony sex offender, having pled guilty and been convicted for procuring a child for prostitution and for soliciting a prostitute in a plea deal in 2008 and served a 13-month sentence. Whereas in the course of that investigation, the FBI compiled reports on dozens of confirmed minors who credibly alleged sexual abuse by Epstein. Whereas Epstein was under further federal investigation beginning November 2018, 2 months before Delegate Plaskett's recently revealed text exchange during a congressional hearing, following investigative reporting by the Miami Herald detailing Epstein's controversial 2008 plea deal and highlighting accounts of his victims. Whereas Epstein was arrested in July 2019 and charged with 1 count of sex trafficking of minors and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors, and he was later found dead in the New York Metropolitan Correctional Center. Whereas according to documents released from Epstein's estate, during a House Committee on Oversight and Reform hearing featuring testimony from Michael Cohen, disgraced former attorney to President Donald J. Trump, Delegate Plaskett coordinated her line of questioning with Jeffrey Epstein in real time over text message while the hearing was underway. Whereas Delegate Plaskett, who previously served as an Assistant Attorney General in the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Division, is known to have had extensive political, personal, and professional connections with Epstein after his conviction as a sex offender up to the time of his arrest and then death in 2019. Whereas Delegate Plaskett's relationship with Epstein stands in stark contrast to the public image she has curated for herself as a defender of justice and accountability, while secretly collaborating with an individual whose crimes against vulnerable women and children shocked the nation. Whereas Delegate Plaskett's willingness to receive instructions on official congressional proceedings from Epstein a convicted felony sex offender with deeply concerning international associations, is especially alarming and inappropriate given her own past service in the U.S. Department of Justice and her current role on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and raises serious questions about Delegate Plaskett's judgment, integrity, and fitness to serve. And whereas such associations erode public trust in Congress, particularly when this involves using input from a sex offender to advance partisan attacks during official proceedings, now therefore be it resolved. Section 1, censure of Delegate Stacey Plaskett. The House of Representatives, 1, censures and condemns Delegate Stacey Plaskett for inappropriate coordination with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing, which reflects discreditably on the House of Representatives, and 2, directs the Committee on Ethics to conduct a full investigation into the extent of Plaskett's ties to Epstein and any potential further improprieties. Section 2, removal from House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The following named member be and is hereby removed from the following committee of the House of Representatives. Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Ms. Plaskett.
The resolution qualifies. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Massachusetts rise?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Ms. Clark of Massachusetts moves to refer the resolution to the Committee on Ethics.
The gentlelady from Massachusetts is recognized for 1 hour.
Mr. Speaker, today we have finally taken a vote that recognizes the need for the survivors and victims of Jeffrey Epstein to have justice and transparency. And not minutes later, the gentleman from South Carolina is filing yet another partisan resolution. I ask all of my colleagues to support this motion to refer this to the Ethics Committee, and I yield back my time.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the motion to refer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
And the motion is not up. What
Mr.
purpose?
Speaker, I request to call the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. 5 minutes will be allowed for this vote.
You think they in there talking about the vote? They in there talking about, man, this bitch want to vote, man. God damn, we got to do it again. Like, man, electronic. You heard it, ho. You heard it. It was overwhelming. Yeah, I thought bro said ow. I'm like, what? Hell no. So all these little small votes are for all of the files? Is that what the hell is, man, release all this shit. No redactions, release the files. Facts, Alicia Blazers everywhere. Big homie said they in there talking about the freak off they about to have tonight. Yeah, they finna have one of them eyes wide shut party where everybody got on them masks with the long bird nose covering their faces and shit. Mel says, I'm about to go buy me a gallon. I think she talking about gas. She says, not an hour. She talked right slow. She damn sure talk slow. Big homie says, Epstein never got locked up. 2008, they let him go in and out of the prison to his office so he can continue to run his business. He was basically just sleeping in the prison and doing what he wanted during the day. Yeah, that ain't really locked up. Big homie says, every day a new day, we still waiting and waiting. Mel says, now y'all, thank you for the help, but I'm not slow. I know there's hundreds of people in there, but I just didn't think they would talk so much. Phoenix said, it's a new day. MF is getting exposed in this day and age. So my question, what's the purpose of these votes if they gotta do another vote? What's the purpose of these votes if Trump could say no and then somebody else gotta vote? Ain't this like a waste of time? Am I oversimplifying this? Maybe I'm making it too simple, but like, if Trump could just say no, and then they have to go take another vote from what, Senate or something, and it has to be what, 2/3 or some crap, like if it has to be a whole nother vote, what's even the purpose of this shit right here? Is this the show? Is this the show that we watching? I mean, do this even mean anything? I thought they were saying something.
On this vote, the ayes are 213 and the noes are 214. The motion is not adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
They lost me at the last one. I'm lost. I don't even fucking know at this point.
Pursuant to Clause 2 of Rule 9, the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Norman, and the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
In just a moment. The chair would ask the House to come to order again, would ask members to take conversations off the floor so that the members can be given due accord and respect during the period of debate. The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today because the House of Representatives has a responsibility and a duty to protect the integrity of this institution. And what we learned from the documents released by Jeffrey Epstein's estate is nothing short of alarming. Those documents show that Delegate Stacey Plaskett, a sitting member of Congress, coordinated her questioning during an official oversight hearing with a man who is a convicted sex offender a man whose crimes against minors shocked this entire nation.
Okay, it's about plastic.
Let me be clear. This was just not casual contact. There were deliberate communications, and they shaped her official line of questioning in a congressional hearing. The American people expect honesty. The American people expect integrity and judgment from their elected officials. They expect members of Congress to conduct themselves with one word: decency, not to seek advice from a predator who exploited minor children. This resolution does not accuse. It acknowledges what is documented. It censures Delegate Plaskett for her conduct, removes her from the Intelligence Committee, where her judgment is paramount, and directs a full investigation into the extent of her relationship with Mr. Epstein. Some will try to spin this as politics, but protecting the honor of this body is not partisan. It's not Democrat, it's not Republican. Standing against a convicted predator's influence in our proceedings is not partisan. It's basic decency. We cannot pretend this didn't happen. The American people deserve better. Speaker, I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
And I rise in opposition to this resolution. We're here today on the floor to support the complete disclosure of information related to Jeffrey Epstein and his billion-dollar international child sex trafficking ring. And our side of the aisle at least supports the release of information relating to anybody who had anything to do with it, whether they're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, or what have you, period. We insist on complete, full disclosure. This resolution has nothing to do with that. This seems to me to be one more pathetic effort to distract and divert attention from the fact that the president's name appeared more than 1,000 times already in the small fraction of material released on Epstein, and from the failure of the majority to move to disclose this information. And it is this bipartisan group that we've had behind the discharge resolution, which has insisted on bringing this to the fore, and we've got nothing but obstruction, opposition, resistance, evasion, distraction, and diversion from the other side. And now we get one more resolution like this. The resolution actually proposes a disciplinary censure against Representative Stacey Plaskett, but amazingly alleges no misconduct. It does not allege the violation of the Constitution. It does not allege the violation of a federal law or a state law or local law. It does not even allege a violation of the ethics rules of the House of Representatives, and yet they want to censure her and throw her off of her committee. This, a distinguished former federal prosecutor, diligent public servant, representative of the people of the Virgin Islands. Now, criminal justice has two parts to it. One is insisting upon legal accountability for people who do wrong. The other part of it is due process, which may be the two most beautiful words in the English language, certainly the two most beautiful words in the Constitution of the United States. It's due process that protects all of our freedoms and our rights against the arbitrary power of government and the will just to punish somebody without any process at all. But that's exactly what's going on here. Think about it. Ghislaine Maxwell had due process. She had a right to counsel. She had a right to hearing. She had a right to hear the evidence against her. She had a right to put on her case. She had a right to cross-examine. She had a right to a neutral, impartial tribunal. She had a right to unanimous verdict of a jury, and all of that she had, and she was found guilty. And that's why she was sentenced to jail for 20 years, even though Donald Trump has transferred her from a real prison to a prison camp where she's gotten very special pampered treatment, like she's in a Trump hotel. She gets room service to her cell. She gets gym privileges other inmates don't get. She gets to use the warden as a go-between with people outside of the institution and so on. But in any event, she had due process. Donald Trump had due process. He was convicted on 34 felonies, but he had the right to counsel. He had the presumption of innocence. He had a unanimous jury trial, right? They had a right to cross-examine everybody, put their own witnesses on. Now, they want to take a former United States prosecutor, the representative of the people of the Virgin Islands, and without even going to the ethics committee, much less a court, they want to arraign her on some charges based on a newspaper article that she did something lawful. However ill-advised it may have been, she took a phone call from one of her constituents. Now, I don't think it is the position of the very distinguished gentleman that if we find Jeffrey Epstein on the phone with Donald Trump, he should be impeached for it, or is that his position? Is his position that anytime Jeffrey Epstein got somebody on the phone, and he got a lot of people on the phone, that person is suddenly guilty? That sounds like guilt by association. That sounds like collective guilt. Our minority whip introduced a perfectly reasonable amendment to say, let's refer this to an ethics committee. Let's have a real hearing. They didn't want to have a real hearing. They want to rush to judgment. Why? So there can be some headline that will please Donald Trump tomorrow instead of a unanimous statement, or forgive me, I think the distinguished gentleman from Louisiana may have dissented, but an otherwise unanimous verdict of the House of Representatives that the American people want all the files open. We've had enough of the cover-up. We want all of the truth. We want the survivors and the victims to have the possibility of accountability. Well, they want to give them another headline, which is that they've arraigned a Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing. Now, if you want to actually give her the chance to explain what happened, then we would take it to the ethics committee. I still don't see what the charge is. Where is the ethical transgression? Where is the legal transgression? Are you saying anybody on your side of the aisle who had a phone call with Jeffrey Epstein should be censured? Be careful your answer there, because there's a lot more that's about to come out, right? So you should think about what is the principle behind this rush to judgment. I want to close just with this thought, because I know there were a lot of people in the chamber who were here when this happened, and a lot who weren't. There was a move to expel George Santos, who was a Republican member of the House from New York. And it was the same kind of rush to judgment, absolute political frenzy, and I looked at it for about 60 seconds. And I was a professor of constitutional law, so call me a legal nerd. But I said, wait, this guy's not been convicted of anything. Well, he's a Republican. Yeah, I know he's a Republican. He was not convicted in criminal court. To my knowledge, he had not been arraigned yet or convicted of anything in the ethics disciplinary process. They just said, well, there's bad press. We want to get rid of him. Beware of what you wish for. Is that the rule that you want here in the House of Representatives? That you can just draw up a member of Congress in 24 hours or 48 hours because there's a bad newspaper article without asking any questions, without giving that person any due process at all? Is that what it's come to at this point? I mean, all we're asking for in the Epstein files is release the materials so we can check it out. They want to go ahead and censure and remove from a committee a distinguished member of the House of Representatives with no due process at all. I reject this. I hope the whole body will reject this, just like I voted and spoke against removing George Santos, a Republican on the other side of the aisle, because he had gotten no due process. I hope all of our colleagues will reject this absurd rush to judgment and attempt to change the subject here. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized. Mr. Speaker, before I yield time to my good friend in Louisiana, Representative Raskin, I will be careful in my remarks. You need to be careful with your facts. You have an 11-year veteran of this body who should know better. You have an 11-year member of this body who took money. It wasn't a newspaper article. It was a fact. She took money from Jeffrey Epstein. It's ironic that you're taken up by defending Ms. Plaskett, which is going to the ethics committee, but she's lost her willingness or lost her ability to serve because she got irrational judgment by taking money from a convicted pedophile of young children And it's unfathomable that you're taking a position that you are. These are facts. You mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell. She's not a sitting member of Congress. She, as a sitting member of Congress, she has relinquished any sense of duty to serve on these committees. With that, I want to yield as much time as needed for my good friend in Louisiana, Mr. Clay Higgins.
And the chair would remind all members to please avoid engaging in personalities to direct all comments through the chair. The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized.
I thank my colleague, Mr. Norman from South Carolina, and I thank my colleague, Mr. Raskin, for the salient points that he has brought to this debate. I also defended George Santos on this floor and opposed the means by which he was expelled. I think it was beyond the pale, and this is a responsibility that we bear in this body, is to determine the means by which our colleagues shall be reprimanded or disciplined. And the Constitution is clear on this. My friend, Mr. Raskin, knows full well that this body controls the means by which and the rules by which the members of Congress shall be disciplined. So we've had variances of opinions regarding, the exact disciplinary actions that should be embraced or rejected, member by member. But let me say that in this case, Ms. Plaskett's receiving text messages, this was so alarming to me. When I saw this and read it, I didn't believe it. I say to my friend, I thought perhaps it was media from a satirical site. It couldn't possibly be true, because we all know that a text message, a text exchange is rather intimate in the realm of communications. And to pierce into an actual congressional hearing for a member of Congress to receive and respond to a text message during a hearing, that is quite familiar, is it not? And this was shocking to me, that a member of Congress would be exchanging text messages directly with Jeffrey Epstein in 2019, at which time he was being prosecuted federally by the first Trump administration. He had received some nature of a sweetheart deal back in 2007 and avoided federal prosecution by pleading no contest to some level of state prosecution, where he was sentenced, Mr. Speaker, to 13 months. My understanding, he did 11 months, and at the easiest time that could be done. He walked every day during the day on a work release program. So that sweetheart deal, let me say, should be looked at. And now, to my horror, who has come to light that should be looked at? What was her involvement? Was there some involvement then? She's a good lady from the Virgin Islands. Where did Jeffrey Epstein live? In the Virgin Islands. She was a constituent in 2019. Was she a friend in 2007? During her service to the DOJ, which my friend has brought up, was there any interactions? These are the questions we have. The good lady from the Virgin Islands has crossed the threshold of reasonable suspicion, and therefore she should be investigated. During said investigation by ethics, and I would recommend by DOJ, and I would recommend by oversight and judiciary committees. Meanwhile, she should absolutely be removed from the House Select Committee on Intel. This, Mr. Speaker, is my position. I presented without note for the betterment of the debate of this body and I yield my time back to the gentleman from South Carolina.
Speaker, I reserve. From South Carolina, the gentleman from South Carolina reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's always a pleasure to hear my friend from Louisiana. Both of the Republican speakers have said this demands an ethics investigation. I think Mr. Higgins just said it should be investigated by oversight and by judiciary, as well as by ethics, as well as by others. This resolution censures her and punishes her before there's been 1 day of investigation. There's been no investigation at all. That was the whole burden of the minority whip's amendment. It was to say, let's have an investigation, refer it to the ethics committee. That's why the distinguished gentleman from Louisiana and I both voted against, and we got a majority to vote against censuring or expelling even George Santos without any ruling by our ethics disciplinary body. Isn't that putting the cart before the horse? I don't get it. I wish one of you could explain that to us, why we should censure her before there's been 1 day of actual investigation. If being on the phone with one of our constituents, even an evil, sinister force like Jeffrey Epstein, and of course, he has said that he considered Donald Trump the most evil person he ever met. He said without a redeeming bone in his body. So I agree, people can say different things, but Jeffrey Epstein, to me, disgraced himself. But in any event, people want to know, well, what were the contents of that conversation? Why was Ms. Plaskett doing that? I'm sure she's got a good explanation. We're talking about a distinguished lawyer and federal prosecutor who was in the middle of a hearing, which is something that members do all the time, is to talk to people in hearings about different things. But let me ask, if it's now the standard that just to be on a phone call with somebody establishes guilt by association, what about all the members of this body or of the U.S. Senate who were on the phone with January 6th insurrectionists and President Trump and his associates who were trying to block the certification of the election as people were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence"? A lot of phone calls, a lot of traffic going on. In fact, that's why our Republican colleagues dealt themselves $1 million cash payoff bonanza provision in the most recent Republican spending bill. They put that in there because their phone records had been subpoenaed lawfully by a grand jury. They were treated like every other American citizen because their names came up as potentially being involved in that conspiracy to somehow shut down proceedings in the House and the Senate. Now, are we saying just because they were on a phone call, they're guilty of something, we should strip them of their committee assignments? We should censure them? Have we gotten to that point? I mean, come on. This is the House of Representatives of the United States of America. Let's stick by the Constitution. Let's stick by due process. Let's go through the rules. I yield 5 minutes to my distinguished colleague from Connecticut, Representative Himes.
The gentleman from Connecticut is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Maryland. I'm not going to speak today about Jeffrey Epstein or January 6th. I'm going to confine my remarks to two things that I know about. And I'm going to take a deep breath right now, because to stand here and to have to listen to the gentleman from Louisiana in the guise of just asking questions besmirch one of the finest members I have had the honor of serving with, I would think would offend the sensibility of anybody in this chamber. But I'm going to limit my remarks to two things I know very well. Number one, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and what we need to do to preserve that very special environment. And number two, the character of Delegate Stacey Plaskett. On HPSI, I've served for 10 years. And with Chairman Turner and now with Chairman Crawford, we have fought for that decade to keep the Select Committee on Intelligence immunized from the sewage that flows through this chamber, the partisan attacks, the hideousness. And by and large, we've been pretty successful, with one exception, when that committee got involved in the political investigation around Ukraine in the first Trump administration. Every single day, the leaders of that committee work hard, establish friendships, and do the work we need to do to make sure that the toxicity and the sewage that we're hearing right now don't impinge the critical work of making sure that our intelligence communities are keeping Americans safe and not violating civil liberties and not doing things inconsistent with the desires and character of the American people. This effort, put forward by a bunch of people who haven't served on that committee and who have no idea the comity and the grace with which that committee serves. You, sirs, will hurt this committee badly. And I expect every Republican on the Intelligence Committee, and I'll say it again, I expect every Republican on the Intelligence Committee who know Ms. Plaskett and who know the committee to vote no on the idea that without evidence and without due process, Ms. Plaskett should be removed from that very special committee. This resolution would strike a devastating blow to HPSC's ability to work effectively by removing a member in good standing based on a newspaper article about texts. No due process, no evidence, nothing offered other than a newspaper article which has moved the gentleman from South Carolina, a member who's consistently engaged in a bipartisan and productive way with the committee's work, to make some unrelated political statement will do profound damage to this essential committee. Now let me just talk for a moment about Ms. Plaskett. I've served in this institution for 17 years, longer I think than most people in this chamber. And I have not had the honor of serving with somebody with the integrity and the commitment and the hard-working bona fides as Ms. Plaskett. We can argue about the wisdom or the judgment associated with those texts. I'm told that apparently Mr. Epstein was a constituent. But on any one of us, our worst day, our biggest misjudgment is not to be judged without any due process, especially in the context of this superb member, this critical member of the Intelligence Committee. The result of this resolution, if it were to pass, will be to undo the efforts of the Republican Speaker and the Republican Chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Mr. Crawford, to restore the committee to what it was intended to be. And while the bill for that decision won't come due immediately, it will come due over time in the form of a less accountable and less effective intelligence community with less effective oversight for Congress. So I don't expect the gentlemen who have offered this up to back down now, but I do expect every single member of the Intelligence Committee that elect those few who understand what it is we need to do to close the door on the flow of partisan sewage, which we see now threatening the critical work that we do. Vote no on this appalling resolution. I yield back.
We reserve.
The gentleman from Connecticut yields back to the gentleman from Maryland. The gentleman from Maryland reserves. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
Speaker, can I inquire about how much time we have left?
2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes?
22 and a half
22
minutes.
and a half minutes. Yes, sir. Let me just say, for my good friends on the left, you know, we're hearing words. That's all this is, words. You're taking the side of a young lady who should have known better. She served for 11 years. She disparaged herself. She did it to herself. This is not smoke and mirrors. This is actual text that pretty well indicts Ms. Plaskett. Would she probably take it back? Yes, but it's too late now. I want to yield as much time as needs to be consumed by my good friend from Texas, Chip Roy.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I thank the gentleman from South Carolina. I thank him for bringing forward this important resolution before the body. I do want to say I appreciate the gentleman from Maryland, his commentary about the vote on removal and his considered judgment with respect to Santos, and I agreed with him at the time and made the same points. I want to align myself with the remarks from the gentleman from Louisiana, but I want to note in doing so, and I think the gentleman from Maryland has shown respect to, I think, the judgment of the gentleman from Louisiana about his being the sole vote on the issue before this body before with respect to what we're making public because of the gentleman's, I think, very real concerns about what it might mean for victims. And we had that debate and a colloquy back and forth in the Judiciary Committee a few hours ago about what we can do to ensure victims are protected and so forth as we all go forward in what I believe is a unanimous view that we should go seek out truth and justice here with respect to Epstein and anybody associated with him and them and the nefarious affairs involving Jeffrey Epstein. The reason that I support this resolution is, and I would note that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle They could have tabled this resolution. They chose not to table it. They chose to refer it, which suggests to me that there's a recognition that something here is not particularly good, that we've got a sitting member, in this case the delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, who was sitting in the Oversight Committee. And I'm actually a particular interest here because I was the one doing the questioning. Apparently my questioning was so riveting that she was engaging in text messages back and forth at that moment. While I was questioning Mr. Cohen, the gentlelady was engaging in this back and forth on text messages with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, again, I've listened now for months. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle disparage and try to impugn the character of the President of the United States and other members of the administration in connection to an investigation of Jeffrey Epstein, which the President, his administration in 2019, they indicted Epstein. They actually moved forward and federally indicted him in 2019. Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested by the Trump administration. And I know the gentleman from Maryland will go on to say that the Biden administration then carried forward that arrest and indictment into prosecution. True. But it was, in fact, the Trump administration that did what had not been done for a long period of time by taking forward that indictment. So I've been listening to all of the preaching by my friends on the other side of the aisle about how any association, anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein is somehow the dispositive moment here in terms of determining the character of this administration or what they're doing or not doing when they're leaning in to try to seek the truth. Where tens of thousands of pages have been released by Jamie Comer and 13 subpoenas has all been put out. So now the House just voted to have greater transparency. Time will tell what that means in terms of what the court does and how they deal with grand jury secrecy and what they do to continue to redact and protect victims' names under existing laws and how the courts treat that. That's going to be a process, as the gentleman likely knows, right? This is going to be determined as to what gets released and how. But here we have the gentlelady sitting in the Oversight Committee texting with a known convicted felon, a convicted pedophile that was very public and known, had served jail time, and is engaging not just in texts that were trivial, but texts involving advice about her questioning of Michael Cohen, all designed to figure out how to get Michael Cohen to be able to somehow go after Trump or Trump's advisors or people around the president. That, to me, is what we talk about with censure, which is contemplated, of course, in our rules and in the structure. The gentleman talked about the Constitution. We're not removing her. We're simply saying censure. And we're saying that it is a censurable conduct to say that this individual sitting on a committee taking advice from a known convicted pedophile, convicted felon, that is conduct unbecoming of a member of the United States Congress and engaging in real time, taking advice from someone that we've been listening to being lectured to, is someone deserving of all of the scorn of the entire world, and he is. That's why we're here. If my colleagues didn't think this was a concern, they would have simply made a motion to table. But my colleagues decided to refer it to committee because they know this is a problem. They know this is not the kind of conduct you want in a member of this body. So I think that the gentleman from South Carolina is right to have brought this forward. I think that the body should hear this debate, and tonight that we should vote tonight to censure and refer to the Ethics Committee for further consideration. And with that, I yield back.
Yields. Gentleman from South Carolina.
I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and
go again.
thank you to my friend from Texas for those remarks. I'm afraid all of them dance around the central issue, which is the good congressman knows how due process works in America. There are facts that are adduced first. There's an opportunity to be heard on both sides. There's due process, there's consideration, then there's judgment. You flipped the whole thing on its head. You've said we're going to judge her guilty before anybody has an opportunity even to hear what the charges are, much less answer the charges, much less do any kind of analysis. I'm sorry to hear that the text exchange that it seems to be at the heart of people's consternation here took place during the distinguished gentleman's questioning, but that is not a federal offense, nor is it an ethical violation in the House of Representatives. You don't get to have the undivided attention of all of your colleagues. The gentleman says that he thinks that our position is that any association with Jeffrey Epstein is a dispositive moment of judgment for people. That's not the position we've advanced. We've taken the position with the survivors that we want to end the cover-up of what happened and then let the chips fall where they may. If there are people who were actually engaged in crime, as Ghislaine Maxwell was, as Epstein was, then they should be charged with every element of due process. If they happen to be a waiter or a waitress who works at an event, they're not guilty of anything. That's what due process is. We're able to sift through and figure it out. But your rush to judgment isn't even giving anybody a chance to know what the charges are here. It's the most extraordinary thing I've ever seen. I'm going to yield now to Delegate Plaskett herself, the distinguished representative from...
Here we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. First, we've got Representative Crockett from Texas for 2 minutes.
Not yet. Damn.
Thank you so much.
Ooh,
this is a distraction to take away from the fact that the Guardians of Pedophiles is literally trying to protect pedophiles. The president is a convicted felon and an accused sex offender. Stacey Plaskett hasn't been accused of either. So what are we actually here talking about? Trump and Epstein were besties. We've all seen the pictures of them. We saw the birthday book. So why are y'all more interested in talking about Stacey Plaskett than Trump's relationship with the man? When did y'all become so moral? Because I can remember when y'all wouldn't sign the discharge petition. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to vote for this, but you wouldn't sign the discharge petition. Until we decide that we are going to go after the actual rapists and pedophiles, miss me with your moral high ground. Folks who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio. I just want to be clear. If this is the standard that we're going to make, just know we're going to expose it all. And just know that the FEC filings, they are available for everybody to review. This is absolutely ridiculous. You decide that you want to punish a sitting member of Congress because you are concerned about her text messages. Well, maybe you should be more concerned about those sex tapes that we still haven't gotten access to. Maybe you should be more concerned with the fact that the president, his name is mentioned in the files way more than Stacey Plaskett's name. Listen, I'm not saying that anything is right or wrong, but listen, if you're trying to figure out what's going on with somebody that's a criminal, then you maybe need to talk to their associates. That's exactly why maybe she was getting text messages. I'm not saying she was or wasn't. But considering the fact that they were talking to another associate of the president's and maybe she needed intel, you'd have to go talk to somebody that maybe knows what he's up to.
Time has expired.
We reserve.
Yeah, she started.
Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
Speaker, I recognize my good friend from Arizona, Mr. Biggs.
And she started going weak at the end.
How much time is the gentleman recognized? How much time you've allotted the gentleman from Arizona?
How much time do we have left?
The gentleman has 17 minutes remaining.
As much time as the gentleman may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Norman. Thank you.
But the thing about it, the lady you defended, she still need to be investigated. Everybody who name come up in this motherfucker need to be investigated. Let me get off in this chat real quick, y'all. I promise I'm going to turn it back on, but I'm going to get off in the chat real quick because they not going to stop. Marcel Sanders say, not, what's up, Marcel? Say, not Mr. Biggs. Mel says, come on, Black Girl Magic, a little bit too much attitude, but I'm here for it all day. Facts, Mills, I agree with you 100%. Marcel says, she all right, but she's weaponizing truth. Let's go, Marcel. Big Homie Slim says they never exposed that either. Marcel says, what about the Hunter Biden laptop? And he says, and that is liberty and justice for all. Mel says, and what would change? And what were her charge? Okay, hearing a little bit more of this, I do feel that she should be investigated, absolutely. And what will her charges be? Talking to a pedophile? That's the purpose of the investigation. But yeah, I agree too. Marcel says, not saying it's right, Mike, but it's He said, but that way nobody can say I did nothing because everything I did solo facts. This dude ain't lying, truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Not the American way, my friend. Phoenix says, Diddy thought he was bigger than the program, never outshined the master. Mike from the Ville says, best way to keep a secret is do your dirt all by your lonely. Big homie Slim says, I bet Diddy wish they kept his secrets hidden the way they doing Trump. Mike from the Ville says, Mazel, if you're interested. Oh, okay, that's for the, yeah, hey, hit the description box. Find out how to win these 200. It's up to 200. Find out how to win these $200. And plus, we're giving away more money, another $50 and another $50 and some more money. So find out how to win some money, bro. I'm talking about hit the description box down low. And shit, there you go. All right, we're going to get back to the content.
Sponsor to talk.
I appreciate y'all keeping it live. We're streaming live from a tent in the woods in Wyoming. Hey, they said the Epstein files now need to be released, but here we go.
Doesn't really say much more than that. And then Plaskett starts questioning Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Cohen.
And asks about Graf.
Yeah, man.
So not only was she texting, having this communication with Mr. Epstein.
Mr. Cohen.
She's asking Mr. Cohen what Mr. Epstein wants her to ask.
Right now, brother.
Another text says from Epstein, good work. That's after she wraps it up. All of this seems to be very interesting. And I'm sorry, I don't breathe the rarefied air of the Intelligence Committee. I don't. I'm just a regular guy and a member of the House. That's all. So I don't know about that rarefied air, and I guess I'm part of the sewage. That Mr. Chime said. Yeah. Thanks for agreeing with me, Ms. Plaskett. So she's got us down. Unless you're in the Intelligence Committee, you're crap. That's what the Intel Committee says. But here's the deal. When you're sitting there in a sitting committee and you're having communications with a convicted sex offender, and you're taking their advice on how to ask questions, maybe you got a problem. Maybe your problem is that you've brought disrepute on the House. And this isn't from the articles. This is from the 10,000 pages or so released last week from the Oversight Committee that they received from the Epstein estate. This isn't fishing around. This is coming from real evidence. So I sit here and I listen, she's the finest member that ever walked the planet, man. That's what you heard. But the bottom line is this. She's sitting there seeking advice and counsel on how to ask questions from Jeffrey Epstein, who this entire body, save one, just condemned. And we want all the evidence. And it's a shame to be here, but for one thing, you made the choice. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'm encouraging everyone in this body to support Mr. Norman's resolution, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields.
Speaker, I reserve.
Gentleman of South Carolina reserves. The members are reminded to direct their commentary to the chair. Before I recognize the gentleman from Maryland, please remind yourself, as well as the members, to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president. Does the gentleman seek recognition?
Yes, I do.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you very much. I want to remark that yet one more member says we should go ahead and censure her, and then we should do a complete investigation. I think any fifth grader in America knows that's the exact opposite of what due process means in America. We don't punish people before we have investigation and the opportunity to be heard. I yield 6 minutes now to the distinguished gentlelady from Virgin Islands, Representative Plaskett.
Thank you so much to Mr. Raskin, to my former professor in law school, and I want to address the body. I first want to give you all a sense of what was happening that day. Everyone knows at that hearing in February, the entire country was watching. As Michael Cohen decided he was going to finally give up information about what was happening in the Trump world, the Trump enterprise. And at the beginning of that hearing, the ranking member, Jim Jordan, had the disrespect to Elijah Cummings, may he rest in peace and his name be a memory, after not allowing Mr. Jordan to shut the committee hearing down. And I turned to Mr. Jordan and told him to have respect for the chair and to basically shut up. And that moment went viral. And I began to get innumerable texts from friends, from foes, from constituents about what was happening in that hearing. And I got a text from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was my constituent, who was not public knowledge at that time that he was under federal investigation, and who was sharing information with me. Now, I heard recently from someone that I was seeking advice from him. Let me tell you something. I don't need to get advice on how to question anybody from any individual. I have been a lawyer for 30 years. I have been a narcotics prosecutor in New York City. I have had the honor of being a political appointee at the Justice Department after September 11th as a Republican appointee in the Bush administration. I know how to question individuals. I know how to seek information. I have sought information from confidential informants, from murderers, from other individuals, because I want the truth, not because I need them to tell me what to say. And if you look at the transcript, you will see that I questioned Michael Cohen for 5 minutes. The Washington Post only shows you 30 seconds and takes from it one individual's name that I got from Jeffrey Epstein and didn't know who the individual was, and put that individual with a host of other individuals that I felt the committee should subpoena. They've never been subpoenaed. They've never been questioned. Because at the end of the day, I know that in the Trump administration and with my colleagues over there, it's not about sexual assault. It's not about support of victims. It's about money. It is about money. I have consistently stood against sexual violence and the exploitation of women and children in previous careers, as well as here in this body. We all know that Jeffrey Epstein's actions were absolutely reprehensible. As a constituent, as an individual who gave donations to me, when I learned of the extent of his actions,
very rehearsed,
after his investigation, I gave that money to women's organizations in my community. Not back to him, but to women in the community who needed that support. That's what I think should have been done, and that's what I did. They've taken a text exchange which shows no participation, no assistance, no involvement in any illegal activity, and weaponized it for political theater, because that's what this is. This has been reviewed by federal courts. Any charges, victims who initially had a case against me dismissed it on their own without prejudice. You don't want to talk about what is really happening here. Your attacks on working families, your protection of powerful predators and corporate criminals. You want to talk about texting felons? How often do you text President Donald J. Trump? That's the individual we should be concerned about.
Look at this bitch doing
and let me
the
tell you
little
this.
gay finger in the
I am not going to
background,
support
like
the
this,
wealthy
what's
and
that shit, like
connected
this
who continue to exploit workers and evade taxes, powerful figures with credible allegations who face no consequences, and corporate interests profiting from human suffering while families struggle. And let me tell the people of the Virgin Islands.
She thinks she cooking.
Gentleman will state his point of order.
The point of order is you may not call the President of the United States a felon. That is a violation.
Point of order is under consideration, and we're not going to lose order here either, so please.
May I continue? May I continue, Mr.
Members
Speaker?
are, however, reminded to refrain, as mentioned a little while ago, from making personality commentary towards the president. The point of order is not timely, so the gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What is happening here? I feel sorry for my colleagues. I feel sorry for this body. I see members coming and speaking against me who I've never even had a conversation with. You don't know me. You don't know the work that I've done. You don't know the support that I've given to families, to individuals, to support people. I worked a full-time job with children under the age of 5, going to school, law school at night. Do you think I would risk my law degree for any individual? Never mind a reprehensible individual by Jeffrey Epstein, I would not. But what I'm about is the truth. And let me tell the people of the Virgin Islands, this attempt at intimidation will pass. We in the Virgin Islands do not back down from a fight. That is how we won our freedom, and that is how we will continue to grow our equality. And if you censure me, take away a committee, I will still do the work because I am here to support people and to support this great Constitution, which I have sworn numerous times to uphold.
We reserve, and I thank
Lady. Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, before I recognize Mr. Clyde, let me just say, Ms. Plasky, I don't know you. My overall impression of you has been good. But, and you give these words about protecting families and children. Where was that demonstrated when you took money from a convicted pedophile that had served time? Where was that? The words are beyond believability. And I think you're a nice person, but you missed the boat when you took money. I've got the mic now. You lost your I don't know the word to describe it, but what you did, you deserve to come off the committee. So let me remind you, we want this to go to the Ethics Commission. And to those listening, the Ethics Commission is 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. Let them find it. But in the meantime, you do not deserve to serve on a committee with national clearance. And I would like now.
Will be reminded again to direct their commentary to the chair.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize my good friend from Georgia, Mr. Andrew Clyde.
How much time is the gentleman recognized? Shall I recognize him?
How much time is left?
You have 11 and a half minutes remaining.
5 minutes.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. My good friend, Mr. Norman from South Carolina. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of this resolution censuring and condemning Delegate Stacey Plaskett of the U.S. Virgin Islands for inappropriate coordination with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing, and removing Delegate Plaskett from the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and referring her to the Ethics Committee for further investigation. After 4 years of silence on this matter, not a peep during the entire Biden administration. Let me repeat that. After 4 years of silence on this matter about Jeffrey Epstein, House Democrats are now demanding transparency and accountability surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and his associates. While their fake outrage is clearly just another disgusting attempt to smear President Trump, House Republicans are taking this matter seriously and are working toward delivering the much-needed transparency and accountability that the American people deserve. This resolution is accountability, page 1. During the House Oversight Committee's ongoing investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, emails obtained by a congressional subpoena, that's right, it was the congressional subpoena by the House Oversight Committee, not the discharge petition that just got voted on, but this was the Oversight Committee's congressional subpoena, has brought to light that in 2019, Delegate Stacey Plaskett coordinated her line of questioning with Jeffrey Epstein in real time over text messages during an Oversight Committee hearing featuring testimony from Michael Cohen. Now, who is Michael Cohen? Michael Cohen was the disgraced former attorney of President Donald Trump. She was asking input from Jeffrey Epstein on how to best question Cohen, and Cohen was himself at that time a convicted felon from 2018. So now that Republicans are exposing Democrat ties to Jeffrey Epstein and his vile crimes, the other side of the aisle has flipped. They apparently no longer want transparency or accountability. Why? Because they don't want the truth. They want to weaponize a serious matter into a distraction, all in an attempt to take down President Trump and to hurt his administration and what he's doing to make America great again. The actions taken by Delegate Plaskett reflect poorly on the House, and this body needs to hold her accountable. I urge all of my colleagues to vote to adopt this resolution to show the American people that those who colluded with Mr. Epstein, including members of the House, will be held accountable, and this resolution is the beginning of that. I thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields.
To the chair.
Speaker, I reserve.
Gentleman from South Carolina reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Proud to yield 1 minute to the distinguished Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries.
The Minority Leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the distinguished gentleman, my good friend from the great state of Maryland, the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, for yielding. I rise today in strong opposition. This resolution, this effort to censure Delegate Plaskett, to rip away her membership on the Intel Committee, is nothing more than a political stunt by a desperate, failed candidate for governor, trying to pander to the people back in South Carolina. Nothing more than that. You want to make the statement about who's brought disgrace to the House? The actions of this House Republican majority have brought disgrace to the House of Representatives from day one of this presidency. The reality is, if you want to talk about fealty to the Constitution and things of that nature, the House is a separate and co-equal branch of government. You don't seem to understand that. You functioned from the very beginning of your so-called majority, Mr. Speaker, not as a check and balance on an out-of-control administration, but as a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda, and you are failing the American people. You failed to keep your core promise. Your core promise to the American people was that you were going to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down here in the United States of America. Costs have gone up. The Trump economy is a complete and total failure. It's a disaster. The American people are hurting. And so every week, you come to the House floor now that you've returned from your 7-week taxpayer-funded vacation and come up with another stunt to try to distract the American people.
Tell them, brother.
Or perhaps you were ordered by your puppet master, Donald Trump, who wants to distract the American people today, because his effort to suppress the Jeffrey Epstein files has failed spectacularly. We believe in transparency. We believe in accountability. We believe in due process. That's the opposite of what is happening on the floor today. And let me be very clear about Stacey Plaskett. She's a woman of great intelligence and a woman of great integrity. And she deserves better than what she's receiving from House Republican extremists. She deserves the opportunity to be heard. She deserves due process. She deserves the ability to make her case, not to be prosecuted by petty foggers playing lawyer on the floor of the House of Representatives. Google that if you don't know what it means. The so-called Freedom Caucus want to lecture us about proceeding at this moment. The actions that you continue to engage in will have consequences. Consequences today, consequences tomorrow, consequences next week, consequences next year, and certainly consequences when the American people throw this House Republican majority out in the aftermath of the election next November. Be very careful about the extreme actions that you continue to engage in. Now, it's extraordinary to me week after week, censure after censure. And I wonder, is it just coincidence that the last 3 censures we've had on the House floor happen to involve, first, you tried to censure Monica MacGyver. And then, Mr. Speaker, Republicans tried to censure Ilhan Omar. And now we're on the floor and you're trying to censure Stacey Plaskett. What is it exactly that those 3 individuals have in common? House Republicans are going to have to answer for the things, the extreme things that you continue to do. And the American people know this is a phony majority. It's a fake majority. It's not a real majority. Republicans aren't doing anything to make life better for the American people. And that's why we're on the floor right now. There's nothing that House Republicans can do to disgrace Stacey Plaskett because House Republicans continue to disgrace themselves. And so whatever happens later on this evening, the American people will hear from Delegate Plaskett beyond this, making her case. The people of the Virgin Islands, I'm confident, will continue to stand behind her. And we will never be lectured on issues related to accountability and transparency and principle and ethics from this group of extreme House Republicans who continue to visit a national nightmare on the American people, bending the knee to a wannabe king, doing real harm in real time, and at the end of the day, your time is coming as well. I yield back.
Chairman yields.
Hey, how much time do we have, Mr. Speaker?
Gentleman has 4.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes. All members are again reminded, including Minority Leader, to direct your comments to the chair. All members are again instructed, including Minority Leader, to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president.
Yeah, you can't say stuff.
The gentleman from Maryland seeks recognition.
Yeah, I know, we'll reserve.
Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Gentleman from South Carolina.
Speaker, I find it interesting that the Minority Leader mentioned that, we got not really a majority. I will tell you, 77 million people are a majority. They rendered the consequences to elect the president that has revived this country from a disaster 4 years under the Biden administration. Let's go back under a little bit of history here about the hearing. The messages show that Plaskett texted Epstein before the hearings that started that day at 7:55. She texted him, the sex offender, the predator on the children she says she protects. They had comments like she told Ms. Plaskett talk about his grades. She mentioned that she had a great looking outfit. This is from Mr. Epstein. In 10:40, she broadcast a feed cut to Ms. Plaskett showing her moving her mouth as if she was chewing something. And Ms. Plaskett mentioned that she had multiple texts. Well, according to the records, and I don't know how many of her texts came from those convicted of felonies, but on at 2:25, Epstein sent 2:25 minutes before Plaskett began questioning Cohen at 2:28. Epstein messaged back, "Good work," at 2:34, 1 minute after Plaskett finished her question to Cohen. So the whole 5 minutes was pretty much conducted under the direction of a convicted pedophile. And this dialogue, Ms. Plaskett was reached by phone Thursday. Plaskett declined to answer questions about the text messages and directed all inquiries to congressional staff. Plaskett's chief of staff said Thursday she was not in a position to confirm or not whether the Congresswoman was texting with Mr. Epstein at the hearing. She did not respond to follow-up questions. Bottom line, these are facts. These are text messages. This wasn't smoke and mirrors. Right. So it's interesting that they're taking that tact. But, Ms. Speaker, how much time do I have left?
Gentleman has 6.5 minutes remaining.
I reserve.
Gentleman from South Carolina reserves. Gentleman from
We'll see what
Maryland.
they do after this 6.5 minutes.
I'm
We
yielding
might
1
wrap it
minute
up
to
after
the
that.
representative
Let's
from
see
New
what
York,
they
Ms.
go.
Clark.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, the conscience of the Congress, in strong opposition to this resolution. This resolution is a blatantly partisan, shameless attack. As we sit here today, Donald Trump is still the single person in this country with the authority and the ability to deliver justice to survivors and truth to the American people by just releasing the files. So instead of answering why Donald Trump chooses every single day not to release the Epstein files, they're pointing fingers at this side of the aisle. Mr. Speaker, unlike the president, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett has committed no crime, violated no rule, and broken no promises. There has been no investigation, no due process, no inquiry into whether the Congresswoman had any connection whatsoever to Epstein's despicable and disgusting criminal conduct. This resolution would have us remove a capable and hardworking member of one of the most serious working committees in this body on the basis of a conversation from more than 6 years ago, which broke no rules, and has no connection to any criminal activity. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this partisan resolution, this sham, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. We reserve. Gentleman from Maryland reserve. Gentleman from South Carolina.
Speaker, I reserve.
Gentleman from South Carolina reserves.
And we're prepared to close.
It's closed.
Yeah,
Gentlemen.
I'm prepared to close.
All right. Gentleman from South Carolina is prepared to close. Maryland is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I want to start by addressing the young people who appear to be in the audience this evening, because I'm afraid some of my arguments are lost on some of our colleagues across the aisle suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. It seems to have completely warped their minds today, and they're not thinking clearly about the Constitution or about the rule of law. But the young people here will recognize, if they read this resolution, immediately what's wrong with it, because it's replete with phrases like this, that this one incident that they're referring to raises serious questions about the judgment and the integrity and the fitness to serve. Well, I think that's absurd, but in any event, if you think it raises serious questions, presumably you would want the answers to those questions, but you don't get answers by rushing to judgment and turning the whole process upside down. This resolution starts by saying we censure her, we remove her from committee, and the very next component of it says we direct the Committee on Ethics to conduct an investigation. That is the opposite of due process, and I hope at least future generations will understand that's not how we hold people accountable, whether it's under criminal law, under civil law, or under an ethics process, which they purport to want to be launching here. Again, go back to the George Santos standard. The reason we voted against just hanging him out to dry and censoring him and expelling him is because the process hadn't happened yet. And Democrats and Republicans together did it, but they're thinking in solely partisan terms. Even Matt Gaetz, accused of having sex with a 17-year-old, was never censured by the House of Representatives. Even with Speaker McCarthy and others condemning him for what he did, we did not censure him. Think about what you're doing to the precedents of this body by trying to attack Ms. Plaskett. And let me just close with a personal thought. I wasn't going to bring it up because I didn't want to embarrass her, but she was one of the 3 finest students I ever had in constitutional law. She was a straight A student in the early 1990s. She's a straight A student in the 21st century. I'm proud not only that she was my student, but that she's my friend and that she's my colleague, and you don't disgrace us in any way. You go to work every day for the people of Virgin Islands, and we're proud of you. With that, I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I find it interesting that the president is occupying the minds of my good friend on the left, rent-free. And it's interesting they bring him up every time, and keep doing it. Keep doing it. This president's got a record that is second to none. And I hope our listeners in the audience can distinguish between just words and babbling on when they reject the facts of what's been presented. Texts don't lie. And they can offer all the excuses. And I do think Ms. Plask is a nice lady. She made a mistake here, a bad mistake. She took advice from a convicted pedophile that is indefensible in this discussion here today. Mr. Speaker, I've listened to my colleagues defend the indefensible. I've heard everything from this is old news to this is just politics. But not a single person has disputed the key fact. Written records in Epstein's own estate documents show Delegate Plaskett sought his input for an official hearing. This is the issue, that alone. Everything else is just noise. This chamber cannot overlook that a sitting member of Congress coordinated with a convicted sex offender to prepare questions for an official proceeding. Imagine telling the American people that that's acceptable. Imagine explaining to parents all across this country that Congress sees no problem with relying on the counsel of a predator of our innocent children. Some of my colleagues want to blur the edges, soften the facts, or bury this under procedural fog, noise as I call it. But sunlight is the best disinfectant, and accountability is not optional. This resolution is not excessive at all. It is appropriate. It is measured. It is necessary at this time. The question before us is very simple. Do we uphold a minimal standard for ethical conduct, or do we just shrug and say, well, maybe next time? Mr. Speaker, the public deserves better. The House deserves better. The American people deserve better. I urge adoption of this resolution, and I yield the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. Without objection, the previous question is ordered on the resolution. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no.
Damn.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Yeah.
The ayes have it.
Welcome to procedural democracy.
What purpose does
Are
the
you
gentleman
fucking-
seek recognition?
I request a recorded vote, and I challenge the speaker's interpretation of the voice vote.
The gentleman asked for the yeas and nays.
I ask for the ayes and the nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed.
Bruh, the nays obviously won. Niggas say, no, that was obviously, and if I'm not mistaken, nay is for them to not do whatever they were gonna do against plastics. So he wants I. All of them want I. Now I'm gonna say this. When we going with fact, right and wrong, she needs to be accountability, bad decision making. She's well aware of what happened. She does need to be investigated, right? I feel like, but as far as firing her or removing her from her position, I say do her the same way y'all do them officers when they kill an unarmed black man. Suspend her with pay until the investigation is finished. So no, she can't make no decisions. She can't go in there and sit in the office or nothing, but she still gets paid the same way y'all do when they kill an unarmed black man. Suspend it with pay and and let the investigation play out. And then from there, whatever is revealed or not determines whether she goes back and gets her job or not. But you do see how hard they are pushing because she's black. You do see how hard they're pushing the, oh, let's get her. She has to be, oh, she's so, it has to be something. I'm just going along with the fact that you had communications with that man around that time. And if you're not guilty, then you should be saying yay too. Release that shit. Yeah, let's talk about it, because I don't have nothing to hide. So I'm not going based off race. I'm going based off right. But the part that I'm using race with is treat her the same as y'all treat these officers and when they kill an unarmed black man. Don't just take her out of
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westman, seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Resolution 879, I call up H.J. Res. 130 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the joint resolution.
House Joint Resolution 130, Joint Resolution providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Buffalo Field Office Record of Decision and Approved Resource Management Plan Amendment.
Pursuant to House Resolution 879, the joint resolution is considered read. The joint resolution shall be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Natural Resources or their respective designees. The gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westman, and the gentleman from California, Mr. Huffman, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westman.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and to include extraneous material on H.J. Res. 130.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
I rise in strong support of H.J. Res. 130, which would repeal the Bureau of Land Management's Misguided Resource Management Plan, or RMP, amendment for the Buffalo Field Office in Wyoming, which was finalized in the twilight hours of the Biden-Harris administration. Wyoming's Powder River Basin currently supplies 40% of the nation's coal. The RMP amendment in question effectively halted future federal coal leasing across a region in Wyoming larger than New Jersey and located in the heart of America's coal country.
See, this is the part that get me
Without
confused.
repeal, the RMP amendment...
How they not finished with that? And then they move on to this. Am I missing something?
The RMP amendment is a death blow to America's energy security, Wyoming's workers, and the economic backbone of the state.
What is this, nigga? What is he doing?
Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair,
fog, noise as I call it. But sunlight.
Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed.
Oh, it's postponed. So they don't. So as far as plastics goes, there is no answer. All right. These niggas about to spend a whole nother hour talking about some others ish. I don't know what they're talking about, man. How y'all feel about this content, bro? How y'all feel about this today, bro? I ain't gonna lie, it was a little different. I appreciate y'all rocking out. I hope y'all enjoyed, man. I hope it was some kind of information y'all got from this. I did too. Hey, man. It's other stuff out there, you know. It's a little slow hip hop day. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, Finesse want to beat up Offset. What else? It's other stuff going on. But this was hot, new man. The world is watching this. Okay, it's a small pocket of people watching Finesse. We got to stay in tune with what's going on with the world, bro. This is what the world, America. The world is watching this, bro. Believe me, not just America. The world is watching this. They want to know what's going on with the state of America. Which all affects your currency. Ooh, if they do release these Epstein files, what you think that'll do to the crypto? Up or down? Anyway, Mike Federville said, how the F, excuse me, he hear that and say the yes was louder. POS, facts. Phoenix 44 says they be writing some good ass soliloquies. Facts. Mel says, come on, auntie. How they keep going up and the Democrats' time keep going down. Oh, y'all peeping. Mike from the Ville says, should be kept. Oh, hold on. Oh, at this point, I think we all can agree both sides got dirt. This ish is a dog and pony show. Just released the MF and ish. Oh, what are we even voting on? Someone committed a crime and we voting if the details should be kept a secret or not. Facts. Phoenix 44 say Junior ass. Oh, you talking about Obama Jr.? You said yeah, Mike from the Ville called bro. Obama Jr. Mel says, I think we should show more content like this. Some people don't even get this much political news, myself included, unless it's being shown to them. I thought I was slow, but no. Nah. This good shit. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Mike from the Ville said, this brother be cooking. Phoenix says, them good talking MFers be slick. Mel says she do think she be cooking, but she's not. Your actions are unexcused, and as a lawyer, you knew that man was what that man was incarcerated for. Facts, bro. Like that's what I'm saying. And their whole thing is, lady, you trying to act. Never mind. We just spoke on the facts. It ain't no need for me to go back over that, man. Listen, we gonna get up out of here. I appreciate y'all. Salute to y'all. Y'all already know. We'll be right back at it, man. Y'all the most aggravating chat in the... Hold on. Boy, there was so much going on. I didn't even let y'all niggas know how aggravated.
Aggravated, bro. Aggravated.
What?
Bro. There's no way in the world. There's no way. There's no way in the world, dog. There's no way in the world, dog. There's no way in the world, but I can't. Aggravated, bro. Aggravated, bro.
Yeah, man, y'all aggravating, dog. Aggravating. All right. Oh, hold on. My bad. Before we get up out of here, we're going to get up in the Discord. What's up, Mills? You got something to say? You want to chime in?
I did.
What's up?
All I wanted to say was that this is pretty cool. I enjoy it. Everything else I'm gonna say it in Chop It Up.
For sure. We'll be in Chop It Up. I appreciate you, Mills, chiming in. Always supporting and all that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to mute up the Discord now because we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Shout out to y'all. Mike from the Ville, Phoenix 44, Mills, who else I seen? Larry Law, Mizell Sanders, Big Homie Slim. Man, shout out to everybody, man, who fell through, show love. Hey, Mizell, bro, hit that link in the description box. Hit the description box, bro. Hit the description box. Somebody got to win this money, man. Might as well be you. Or why not you, you know? But, hey, man, shout out to everybody, man. I appreciate y'all. We're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Oh, boy. Y'all ain't never heard that. I done been on this mug 10, 12 hours, 14, 13 hours. Y'all never heard consistent beeps. Dang. Hey, let me change my battery in my, what you call it, for they give me that stereotype. Oh, look at all of them. All of them, they're all beep. No. Fire extinguisher. What is it? Smoke alarm, smoke detector, all this shit. I don't even know. Look at him. He can't even talk. Look at him. Yeah. But anyway, man, y'all have a good one, man. Mike from the Ville says, why the F is Nicki Minaj speaking on behalf of Trump administration at the World of Nations? Get her the F out of here. I feel the same way, brother. Get her the F out of here. Hey, man, we in Chop It Up on the Discord. If you ain't up on the Discord, hit the link in the description box. Join the Discord. We going to be in Chop It Up. Hit the description box. Also, find out how to win these $200+. You know what I'm saying? We got $50 and $50 and some more stuff. So figure out how to get it, man. Much love to y'all. Super duper salute to y'all. We going to get up out of here. The livest chat in the game, most aggravating chat in the world. Like my bro say, I reserve the right to be wrong. I never set you out. That fall back on me. That's only because there's room for human error, man. And also, I identify as a multimillionaire. They got to give us a cash register if they got a bathroom. That's all I'm going to say about that. Other than that, this